From the close audio studio that is my room, I'm Edward Fawcett. We are now at week 3, and week 3 is the end of the pods. The format of this tournament is that all of the players are split into 8 pods, and the top 2 players from each pod will go to an undefeated bracket. They will play 4 rounds, and at the end, they will be one undisputed top player. Very exciting. We've got more on that, more on the lists coming for you later on. But before we do, let's have a general look at the statistics as they have panned out so far. Throwing over to you, Edward, with the weather. The weather that looked so promising at the start of week 1, with sun from tip to top, is now looking really dire. On the right-hand side of the map, we have got some real dodgy weather, with hurricanes and tornadoes ravaging the mountains. Towards the sea as well, we've got some real mist and cloud coming in. There are some real sunny spots, but they're starting to look a bit more disparate than they were earlier on in the event. Looking at the lowest 3 win rates so far, we've got a 0% win rate for Ogres, although that is 2 losses and a draw, so it's not as dire as it does appear. And then High Elves and Dwarves looking really poor as well. Both of them with a couple of draws between them, but mostly just a low win rate. Both really struggling. High Elves I'm surprised by, but Dwarves not so much, I think. Moving into the dangerously hot territory, we've got Wood Elves with their Pillars of Fire bringing us to a scorching 55 degrees, the Furious Rage of Khorne heating us to a 61 degrees Celsius, and Tomb Kings in that desert sun, who could forget, 69 degrees. Nice. Looking at the faction spread across the board, it's not too dire. We've got an average win rate of 46.7%, and we've got a lot of factions that are playing around that. We've obviously got Beastmen, Bretonnia, Dark Elves, Empire, Lizardmen, Orcs and Goblins, Vampire Counts, all in that just a few percentage points on either side. We have got a few outliers. Ogres, mentioned before, it doesn't feel particularly fair to bring them up here. There's only 1 player, so the statistics not super relevant. Skaven, 3 players, they're looking at the 1/3 win rate. High Elves, they've got a few more players, a little bit more statistically relevant. Dwarves and Chaos Dwarves looking at, between 7 or 8 players, their win rate is a little more statistically significant as well. But we're really looking at a fairly good spread outside of the extremes on either side. So thank you, Edward. Moving on from the weather, we're now going to be throwing over to Edward, our meta correspondent, and Snoozi, our financial analyst. However, before that, let's have a quick look at the top 16 cut as it stands at current. So, at the end of week 3, we have gone to a top cut. So for those of you not aware, all of the pods, the top 2 players in each pod, have been selected to go up to 1 winner's pod. They're all going to be playing against each other. The way the pairings are going to be done is that it is the 2 players in each pod playing against each other. So the OCE player plays against the other OCE player, EU2 plays against EU2, and then we'll go into the next round. This is making it easier for time zones pairings. Also just means that we have a good spread of players coming into the later rounds of the event, which I think is quite exciting. So, as you can see, Tomb Kings, that's the elephant in the room. We've got 8 Tomb King players out of 16, but what I think is interesting is that it's not just Mortuary Cult, it's not just Royal Host. We've got all of them. There's Grand Army, there's Royal Host, and there's Mortuary Cult in there as well. There's only actually 5 factions in the top cut, and I think that is in part due to the strength of Tomb Kings. They've kind of squeezed out a lot of the other armies, given that they've taken up so much of the space. So the other armies we've got in there, we've got a single Vampire Counts player, we've got 2 Wood Elf players, we've got 2 Orcs and Goblin players, 1 Grand Army and 1 Troll Horde, and then there are, I believe, 3 Warriors of Chaos players as well. So not the biggest spread, but 5 armies that can compete at the top level is quite a healthy spread in terms of what you'd expect to see for a competitive game. And I think there are a couple of other armies that we didn't see get the top cut here, but could have very easily made it in. Basically, Bretonians looking at you, that's the big one on my lips. Due to the format of the pods, there was always going to be risk that a couple of players would get a 3-0 and not make it through. And in this case, that did happen. I was one of the 2 players, and also Shadow Sun, the other Royal Host player. So there were 2 undefeated Royal Host players, but Shadow Sun didn't make it through. I didn't make it through. We were the 2 lowest scoring players in our pod, unfortunately. Both of our pods had 3 players. But moving on, we've got some breakdown of all of the lists coming for you. Over to you. Okay, so coming into EU1, we've got the top player of EU1. As previously mentioned, there were 3 3-0 players, myself being the 3rd who didn't make the cut, but First of all, we've got Warriors of Chaos. And this is a non-standard Warriors of Chaos list. It doesn't have the dragon. It's just got a Chaos Knight Death Star, which I think is really interesting, and it plays really well into the sorts of list we're seeing in the meta now, the Death Star adaptation. I'm not sure if he was aware of what was coming, but it has worked out nicely. So there is a Chaos Lord. There are 2 Sorcerer Lords. All of them are on steeds. The Chaos Lord has an Ogre Blade, Mark and Nurgle, Paymaster's Coin, Enchanting Aura for the Strikes Last, and 2 Favor of the Gods. So you can re-roll those pesky, Blessed by the Dark Gods rolls when you roll 1 and get Stupidity. Then there's the 2 level 4 Sorcerers. One's Tzeentch, one's Undivided. The Tzeentch one is Battle Magic, giving the unit a ward save, Arcane Urgency. The other caster is Demonology to unlock Demonic Vessel, which gives you +1 strength and attack and AP, which means that the whole Death Star hits really hard. That Chaos Lord can be turbocharged to pretty unacceptable levels. You can get up to like 6 or 7 attacks by the time you roll on the table, all with Ogre Blade, up to strength 8, so you can be wounding dragons on 2s. Pretty spicy in there. Tome of the Dark Gods as well lets you pick up any of the faction, the mark specific signature spells as well, which is nice. So it lets you get that +1 toughness if you want it, or if you want to match up where you want to go for more magic missiles, you can. In the core, there's the Death Star of Chaos Knights. They've got the just full 10 undivided, so everyone can join them. A couple of units of Chaos Warhounds, and then some Marauder Horsemen that can be used as a casting bunker if you want to go that way, if you're playing into something that doesn't require a full Death Star to slam into. Then we've got Chaos Dragon Ogres in the special slot, not particularly, surprising, and a single gigantic spawn. Any thoughts on this list?
I think it's one of the more flexible Chaos lists we've seen. Ironically, even though it's running a big Death Star, because you can either just whack everything in the Death Star and go to town, or you can run around with 3 sort of 360-degree skirmish cav, just charging wherever they like. So plays well into a variety of lists. The 2 level 4s, I think, is something standard that we see quite often now. I don't think there's any other surprises here. No one's surprised to see the Ruby Ring of Ruin or the Infernal Puppet. So
No, that is true. Infernal Puppet is very good. I like it. I like you said, the flexibility is really good because you can have 1.5 magic missile spam casters if you don't need to go for that full Death Star. If you play into something like Wood Elves, you can be more defensive and just shoot them off the table if that's the way that you want to go. The other player in the E1 pod. So the first matchup is Orcs and Goblins. And this is a fairly standard list, I think. Not a huge amount that's particularly different about it. We've got a Wyvern Black Orc Warboss, equipped as you'd expect. Trollhide Trousers, Talisman of Protection, great weapon. So 2-up save against shooting, 3-up save in combat, 5-up ward, great weapon. Hits real hard, really cheap. A couple of Night Goblin characters just to unlock the Night Goblin units. Then there's a level 4 caster with Battle Magic and Idol of Mork, and a level 4 Goblin caster as well with Elementalism, Lore Familiar, Ruby Ring of Ruin. This lets you teleport around, which is quite strong when you've got Fanatics, for example. Being able to slingshot Fanatics can be really devastating for some armies. Also lets you position quite nicely with them as well. Into core, there's 2 units of Night Goblins, as you'd expect. Triple Fanatics. Also seeing nets in there as well, which I do enjoy. I think the nets are just a fun one to have. Sometimes goes wrong for you, but often debuffs the strength of your opponent. Big unit of Black Orcs, and then double Doom Divers. Doom Divers are one of the best artillery in the game, up there with the really strong cannons. So yeah, a really strong but fairly standard Orc list, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that sort of jumps out as irregular here. The Black Orc Warboss being cheaper than that Chaos Lord that we've seen, even though he's on a Wyvern and the other guy's just lowly on a horse.
Yeah.
The double level 4, again, we're seeing all the staple magic items we'd expect. The Ruby Ring of Ruin, multiple Trollhide Trousers. Fanatics are obviously great. They're going to be everywhere, and the Black Orc mobs are obligatory. With the Doom Diver catapults, just accurate and, hit hard.
Yeah, and we've also got the Orc BSB with the War Banner for extra combat res going in with the Black Orcs. They've got the big red raggedy flag for combat res as well. Deadard armor taking him up to T6 with full plate, getting him up to a 2-up save as well. So just really, really hard to chew through that BSB, which is nice for the fairly cheap 158 points it costs. So the spicy question: who's going to win Do you want to predict this one first, and then we'll alternate off? Who do you think
Yeah,
is going to
sure.
win Pod
I
One's first match?
I think orcs and goblins take it. I think
Mm,
the weakness of like fanatics is going into big monsters or like heavy amounts of chaff, which the Chaos list doesn't have in spades. I
it's
think
true.
fanatics are super good versus cavalry, and they'll just eat through that knights unit if they're not careful. The Black Orc War Boss can kind of probably match what most of them are doing, but for cheaper. I think he's probably one of the most efficient beat sticks in the game. So the level fours are cheaper. The Doom Diver catapults add some sort of urgency to the chaos. They need to close the distance quite quickly, and that makes it difficult with the Night Goblin mobs. I don't know. I don't. I see this playing out in one way in my head that leads to an Orc and Goblins win.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say, the one sort of big win that I think you can take for the Chaos player is you can get up to T6 with Demonic Vessel or Demonic Vigor, whichever one it is that gives you +1 toughness. And then also the Nurgle spell as well. So if you are going to get hit by Fanatics on your turn, you can buff the Chaos Knights to T6. And then you're not taking anywhere near as much damage. The Fanatics only wound you on 5s instead of the 3s they normally put out. But Pash has been predicting me to lose all my rounds, so I will return the favor and I'll say yes. Orcs and goblins win. I think just like on pure list matchup, that's what I would expect. You know, if we're looking at it, because there's not a huge amount of wounds in that list, and that's what fanatics really do chew through: high value, low wound count models. All right, moving on. This is into EU2, and we've got a returning Wood Elf player from the first S-Bot, Sylvan Oakspring. You know, obviously, they have to be playing Wood Elves. We've got a dragon, the full, as you'd expect, great weapon, armor of meteoric iron for that always on 5-up armor save. There's a healing potion, Luckstone for rerolling ones, like one
I
save
think
or
so.
something a turn. Not an
I'll look
item
it up.
you
Keep
often see.
talking.
Yeah, Talisman of Protection, Annoyance and Netlings, Befuddlement, Mischief. So basically, what this means is you have a very hard to kill Chaos Dragon in combat. If you get to combat, the dragon's going to do really well. However, it will be blown off the board by any real level of shooting, and we're seeing a lot of poison shooting in the meta. So I'm a little uncomfortable with this model, but it's still pretty good. Other characters, we've got the Spellsinger, which is level 2, and a Spellweaver, level 4. Both of them are battle magic, so you're fishing for those, Arcane Urgency, Pillar of Fire, Fireball, all of the good stuff in there. The level 4 has the Broken Stave, as you called it, the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and a Resplendence of Luminescence, just giving you magical attacks. Goes in with the Glade Riders with Reserve Move. They get some magical attacks on the shooting, just in case there's ethereal threats you've got to deal with. And Lore Familiar on the level 2 is a nice bit of tech that I've been using as well. It just means that with a level 4, you're probably going to roll good spells in Battle Magic. A level 2, you're very unlikely to roll the spells you want, so you may as well pick them. Other than that, fairly standard, I think. We've got lots of scouts. We've got the 1 unit of Glade Guard that you have to take. There's 2 units of Sisters of the Thorn instead of the full 3, and then there's a Great Eagle as well. And those are kind of the different choices that you see in this list compared to a fairly standard Wood Elf list.
Yeah, I'd agree. So the Luckstone is just single use. Bearer of a Luckstone can reroll a single failed armor save roll for 15 points. So maybe they just had 15 points knocking around, or maybe they thought they really needed that reroll for if they come up against something really scary. Not sure. Maybe it's just to deal with that monster slaying blow. Oh no, you don't get armor saves versus it, so I guess not.
No, that's an odd choice because 15 points on a model that has at best a 4-up save, I'm not in love with.
I have found often when doing my Wood Elves list that sometimes you find it quite difficult to spend those last 20, 25 points because everything's quite expensive. So maybe it was just a case of that. But yeah,
Sure.
across the list, everything else looks pretty standard. I think Lore Familiar definitely has more value on a level 2 than a level 4, just because, as you said, especially in lore such as Battle Magic, you're likely to just roll some good spells anyway. I am surprised to see an extra unit of Deepwood Scouts in Special. Maybe they really value like that skirmish capacity. And I think, the Dragon is a bit of a... I think it was a crutch for a lot of elf players early on in the edition, but now that seems to have changed, especially with that poison meta you were talking about. But they seem to have dodged those so far. I think they've played Bretonians twice and Empire once.
Sure.
So, we'll see going into it. I think they'll have a really rough time into like a Tomb King's list.
Yeah, I really like the stag version of the list, but that didn't make it to the top cut. So I'll have to keep spreading the good word of the stag lord. And speaking of poison, we are playing into a poison mortuary cult list. So it's not the most poison you might ever see, but it is two level fours, two level twos in mortuary cult. You've got the standard, well, not the standard actually. You've got double elementalism and then an illusion level two, also using the law familiar on a level two to pick the good spells. Normally, this wouldn't work in illusion, but in mortuary cult, you're still going to be able to cast at +6 because of the sacrificing wounds on the tomb swarms and also the casket buffing you up. There's the elementalism caster. Mortuary cult, basically, one of them is going to be rerolling ones to hit, just buffing them up as much as possible. Sumo Shabti, the Tomb Swarms to juice your spells, 43 Skeleton Archers, which is a little lower than I might like, but it's still pretty good. And then another 4 and 5 Shabti, taking us up to 15. Two Tomb Scorpions, because you got to take them, and then a single Cascade of Souls. This is not a list that dragon feels safe into.
This list almost feels designed to kill that Wood Elves list. I think if I was going to tailor a list to go against that Wood Elf player, you wouldn't be totally out of left field if you ran something like this, I think.
I agree.
So I think, yeah, the Wood Elves survive on the keeping away and like their minuses to hit, and Tomb Kings just go, well, I don't care about your minuses to hit. And your Shabti are always hitting on 4s. They hit like a truck. So yeah, it's going to be a really rough matchup.
Yeah, I think the Wood Elf player can take it, though, because they have evasive on everything that matters. The Sisters of the Thorn can stay behind the woods. The Dragon Lord and the Deepwood Scouts can all evasive. The Glade Guard have reserve moves. So, in theory, you can keep your whole army safe. But I have had word from behind the scenes that the way that this is going to work is there are no draws. There is only pure violence. So if you win, if you both kill one unit, your unit is 99 points and their unit is 100 points, they win the game. So you can't stall it out. You got to go for a little bit of violence at the very least.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I definitely think I think Wood Elves always have play into pretty much every matchup. Just they have to play completely perfectly. I think one misstep and a hail of arrows come out of left field and just shoot shoot everything. So yeah, I think the Wood Elves will struggle, but there's play if they play perfectly, or they have a bit of dice luck on their side. Then who knows?
Yeah, I think I am going to say that on paper, the Mortuary Cult player takes this.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree.
Perfect. Let's move on to EU3, getting to the end of Europe. And what do we got? It's another Mortuary Cult player. We have got a lot of those to get through, and this list is a little bit different, but you're going to see a lot more of this later on down the line. So, there is an Illusion level 4 with the Dragon Slaying Sword, Law Familiar on a dragon. This is spicy. I don't like it, but it's spicy. There's a level 4 Elementalism caster, and then a level 1 Elementalism caster with the BSB Amulet of the Serpent as well for the poison shooting. Then we've got 30 Skeleton Archers for it to join, so quite low in terms of the poison shots, but still not bad. 80 Shabti, Double Tomb Scorpion, Cascade of Souls, and a Necrosphinx. This is Mortuary Cult good stuff, but I don't really love the way that the casters are panned out. I feel like there are probably going to be games where the Elementalism caster doesn't do what you want him to do, which is pick up, Plague of Rust, pick up Travel Mystical Pathways, potentially the Ward Save, although that's less important depending on the matchup. The Bone Dragon is scary if you are playing your own Behemoth, but if you're not playing a Behemoth, it's kind of a little bit underwhelming. How do you feel about this one?
I think this list has like a huge amount of castling potential with the double casket. It's sort of come to me and take a lot of damage on the way in. Obviously the Mortuary Cult play really well with that level 4, using the illusion and I've forgot the name of the spell, Spectral Doppelganger, because they can give you those huge buffs to cast that. So they cast it really reliably because it feels so bad when you throw your illusion mage in and then they don't get their cast off and they just sit there with their little stick, having a really bad time. But that doesn't really happen a lot Mortrigal. And we see that across quite a lot of the lists that are taking the level 4 with illusion, just because of the huge bonuses
Mm,
I'll get to cast. But yeah, I think dry rolling elementalism is one of the weaker ones to dry roll, because there's sort of two spells that you really, really want.
yeah.
Um, and like the signature is not amazing. So yeah, I think I'd really want to put that lore familiar elsewhere, but you sort of, if you don't roll spectral doppelganger, then your illusion wizard's kind of useless as well. So it's a tricky one.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would rework the caster core, but that's fine because the opponent that Altwin has to play against is playing almost exactly the same list. I can only assume that they wrote this list together, and there is a slight tweak. So this list is different in that the Necrosphinx is in special instead of rare. If you take a look, that's a big difference. And the other change is there's one less Skeleton Archer, and the other Tomb Scorpion has ambush. So both Tomb Scorpions have ambush in this list. This is not a list that I expected to see twice. Who do you think's going to win? Do you think that one skeleton's going to do it, or do you think the extra ambush has got the play?
So I'm looking at it side by side, and the only difference is one skeleton archer for ambush on a tomb scorpion. So do we value sneaky scorpion over the extra shot? You
I'd
know,
say
I
probably,
think
yeah,
yeah, probably. But
yeah.
I believe in this extra skeleton archer. Maybe the math really tips in their favor at 30. So
Perfect.
yeah, I'm going to go with Ortin Lowick. I've totally butchered your name. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. And I'm going to go for Wilhelm, whose list name is Ortwin is better at making army lists than me. So we have confirmation this list was written by the preceding player. So interesting that he's going to have to play against his own, his own list.
I think that's fun.
That's pretty
That's
fun.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited. I'm most excited to see how this one goes. Will Mortuary Cults win? Find out next time. Coming into across the pond, we've got Adam, and Adam you might recognize from the State of Play Chaos that I had on the channel just a week or two ago. And Adam is playing basically the same list. In fact, yes, it's listed as Toronto. Adam did win the square-based Toronto event. We're seeing a very aggressive Chaos Lord. That's Ogre Blade. Still got the usual Marker Nurgle, Brazen Collar for the Magic Resist 2, Enchanting Aura for the Strikes Last if you're in base to base with the Chaos Lord, and then triple Favor of the Gods because you're always going to roll a 1 and get Stupidity otherwise. Then there's the Sorcerer Lord, who is Marker Tzeentch level 4, Battle Magic, Spell Familiar, Infernal Puppet, all super standard. Also, Armor of Meteoric Iron. So the sorcerer has a 5/5 that can't be reduced, which is fairly tanky. On a demonic mount, you've got your T4, 4 wounds. It's not too shabby at all. In the core, 2 units of Forsaken, a 10 and a 7, a big unit of Marauder Horsemen that you can use as a casting bus for the Sorcerer Lord, and you probably will. I don't think there's any situation you'd take him out, really. And then there's the 4 Dragon Ogres, which is a pretty beefy unit, and 6 Chosen Chaos Knights. I put a tier list, a heavy cavalry tier list up 3 or 4 days before Adam won square based on Open Toronto with Chosen Knights, and I said that Chosen Knights were bad. So prove me wrong then. We'll see if he proves me wrong this time round. They do hit pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see the Chaos Lord that we've seen throughout the whole edition is pretty universally good into everything, even this poison shooting better, just because that 2-up save. Plus
It's
the
only a
saves
3-up
after the
save,
saves.
unfortunately.
Is it 3? Is it only 3-up? Oh, he needs the helmet, doesn't he? Does he have a helmet?
Which
No. Oh, okay.
can't take the bedazzling helm anymore because they changed it to
Oh, you
infantry with
can't. That
infantry.
got FAQ,
Yeah.
didn't it? Thank God for that. That dark. I think there was like a really scary dark elf one rocking around at a while with the bedazzling helm on it that looked horrifying.
Yeah.
The Marauder Horsemen, do they have reserve move?
No, they're
They don't.
just
Okay, I don't know
+1
a
to
huge
cast,
amount about
basically.
chaos. All I know is that when they've hit me, I've died. So,
That's what this list will do.
yeah. I mean, I agree with all of your points wholeheartedly and have nothing to add.
Excellent stuff. I like Adam as well. Adam's really fun to talk to. So I've got a little bit of bias in saying that I want Adam to win against Kazandu, who's Tomb Kings. Now, Phil has been playing this list for a while, apparently, talking to some locals. He's part of I believe, the Canadian scene. He's been playing basically the same list for all the tournaments he goes to, and it's Grand Army, double dragon. So there's a high priest with the illusion, the law familiar, the 5-up ward. The list, the dragon that I said I don't love, but it's been doing well for him. Then there's the Tomb King on dragon with the Armor of Ages. So that's the, if you roll a wound successfully, you've got to re-roll it. Potion of Toughness to get you up to a stupid toughness, which is very fun. If you're wounding on 6s and then you have to re-roll all of them, sucks to be you. Talisman of Protection and a great weapon. If you're hard to kill, who cares about striking first, into core, there's some skeleton archers, a big unit of skeleton chariots, which is quite fun, with the Icon of the Sacred Eye, giving you that weapon skill 3, not only on the skeleton warriors, but also on the skeleton horses. Very exciting stuff. 3 sepulchral stalkers as well. I'm assuming just because they're quite beefy, able to move forwards, it's part of the full send list. Then in special, double tomb scorpions, and in rare, double necrosphinx. So this is just a full wall of beef. Undead, desiccated, full, I guess, beef jerky, because it's all dried and hanging off. But it's going to come towards you, and it's a lot of T6 that's you're going to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, double dragon, double necrosphinx. You've got the sepulchral stalkers, which aren't the easiest things to take out either. The skeleton chariots, which are tough for skeletons, I suppose.
It's a lot of wounds.
Yeah, the tomb scorpions aren't bad either. So there's a lot to chew through here, but I don't look at a lot of it and think, oh, that's a target I'd like to put that into. I think the necrosphinxes don't really want to go into the dragon, even though they've got that decapitating blow with Monster Slayer. I still think the dragon eats them alive, but he's 627 points, so he probably should.
I think the Chaos Lords just kills the Necrosphinx before they get to strike. I think that's probably how that goes.
Yeah, so I don't think I can pick a winner clearly, because obviously they both sort of want to do the same thing. The Tomb Kings have their own little spice on it. I think having that extra dragon that hits also quite hard probably leans massively in the Tomb King's favor. So, are we picking sides yet?
Yeah, go for it. Who do you think is going to win?
I think I'm going to go with the Tomb Kings. I think the Necrosphinxes play quite well into the Chaos Knights, and fairly well into the Dragon Ogres, and the Skeleton Chariots have quite a large footprint. So that could be quite useful to deny perhaps a couple of charges, some charge angles. And having the double dragons means I think you can probably tie up that Chaos Lord for a good amount of the game if you need to.
Yeah, potentially. I did ask Adam if he thought he could win, and he said maybe. So I'm gonna back my boy, and I'm gonna say Adam's gonna take this one for the NA1 pod.
I like it.
We've got another Warriors of Chaos player. Obviously, America just built different. They love their Warriors. This is another very similar list. This time there's the Chaos Lord with the Ogre Blade, with the Marker Nurgle, with the Brazen Collar, with the Enchanting Aura, with the Favor of the Gods. I think we've seen this before. This is very similar to what we've just had a look at. Okay, maybe the Sorcerer Lord's different. So there's Marker Zinch, cool. Infernal Puppet, spell familiar, Favor of the Gods, okay, very similar there. It is a little bit different, to be fair. This is Dark Magic with Biting Blade, so not playing so much the range damage game, but more playing the buff the Chaos Knights. 2 units of Khorne Chaos Knights. I'm not really sure why you'd go Khorne if you're going Dark Magic, because I feel like you probably just want to buff up the give them Battle Lust for the Frenzy and Hatred, at which point Marker Khorne feels a bit superfluous, but maybe it's going into the Marauders or the Dragon Ogres. There is a squad of 2 Dragon Ogres there. And then the slightly different thing here is the Warpfire Dragon. Not a caster, which I think I like, but it can fly around. It can turn off ward saves for the Chaos Lord, so it can just absolutely annihilate something. Or it can just be a dragon, which is, not bad.
Is the Warpfire toughness 6?
Yeah.
It is. Damn, okay.
T6, 6 wounds, 4-up save.
Yeah, I really don't have that much experience with Chaos. I think it's one of the only lists I haven't tried to build, purely because all of my friends, friend group who plays, it's so saturated with Chaos players. So I'm like, I'll just build something else. But yeah, I think you're right. The Chaos Lord is just the same one we saw, but 5 points cheaper. I guess Favor of the Gods is probably 5 points.
Exactly that, yeah.
Yeah. The Sorcerer Lord, can rock around with the Chaos Knights, can go with the Marauder Horsemen, go wherever, even potentially just rock up behind the Dragon Ogres to get that
Mm.
360-degree kind of spell arc. The Warpfire Dragon sounds scary. I don't think there's anything like that stands out to me here that's like different from other Chaos lists I've seen, but
Yeah.
it's doing the job.
The one thing that's a little weird to me is the Dragon Ogres. So the Shartak has, it's a squad of two. The Shartak has the Blackened Plate, which is full plate, so that gets it up to a 2-up save, which is nice. And then Uncanny Senses, which I can't remember off the top of my head what it does. +1 to Initiative. So you've got a great weapon that is Initiative 2 or Initiative 5 on the charge. Sure. I'm not sure that does much for me.
I don't know where that breakpoint is. Like, what I find that the breakpoints when you're charging for initiative wise are 6 and 7. I like the two big ones you want to hit.
Yeah.
But so I'm not sure what 5 does. But
No.
maybe he has a reason. Maybe he had points left over. Who knows?
Chaos, Warriors of Chaos, a lot of Initiative 4, so maybe that's it. Maybe,
Yeah.
charging into enemy Warriors of Chaos lists. Didn't want to have to deal with those. All right, and Combo Skipper is playing into Jelly, which is a Mortuary Cult list. Now, this is very familiar, I think. We've got an Illusion Serpent Staff, ward save, Bone Dragon level 4 High Priest. We've got a level 4 caster here with Elementalism. Earthing Rod is a nice bit of tech. You want to put this on one of your casters as a Tomb King player, because the first thing you want to cast is going to be the reserve move spell, and then you can plan your turn around it. Basically, you want to not miscast when you cast your reserve move. If you do miscast, re-roll when it stops you from casting any other spells. Otherwise, you lose the game. And the Earthing Rod lets you re-roll that miscast. So it's just a nice little trick there to not lose to yourself. Would recommend. Other than that, Mortuary Priest, BSB, Amulet of the Serpent for the poisoned attacks, going in with 50 Skelly Archers. There's some Tomb Swarms, there's some Sharp T, there's some Tomb Scorpions, there's 2 Necrosphinxes. There's no Caskets. This list is more violence. This is I guess, a medium send list, I'd describe it as.
Yeah, I think I like the bigger block of Skeleton Archers, and I think the again we see that level 4 with the Spectral Doppelganger, presumably, with the Serpent Staff that just hits hard and is really reliable, getting like up to a +8 to cast. Oh no, +7 because no casket.
Sure.
Elementalism, yeah, seems pretty standard across from what we've, because I'm not sure what you're really aiming for apart from TMP. I don't think
Plague of
there's a
Rust
lot
is
of
the only other
value.
spell that you
Plague of
really care
Rust as
about.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in like a direct matchup, I think the illusion could be really, really useful. Being able to get, I think it's called Miasmic Mirage,
Yeah.
get that cast on the Chaos Lord, perhaps, is
Yeah.
how I'd play it. Try and play a bit of keep away, use Column of Crystal, try and, to stop the Dragon Ogres, and try and pick your fights while picking them off with the Skeleton Archers. Necrosphinx is trying to tear stuff up without dying too hard. That's probably how I'd play it. But I don't think there's anything massively unstandard in this Mort Cult list.
Yeah, I think this list is worse at killing dragons than a regular Mortuary Cult list. I'd like to see the Necromancy plus Caskets. I think that just deals with dragons very well. This has got the Elementalism teleporting Poison Brick, which is fine. But especially if you're casting onto the Chaos Lord, he's got Magic Resist too, so he's not super vulnerable. Your Mortuary Cult, High Priests are only casting at +5 onto that model, which is,
Only.
barely good. So it's not the silver bullet that it could be. I think in this matchup, because of the way, I think Mortuary Cult in general beats that Warriors list, but I think this Warriors list and this Tomb King's Mortuary Cult list, I'm going to back the Warriors.
I think Chaos probably take it. I think there's play both sides, but Chaos still really well into that poison brick shooting meta. I think quite well. They're one of the few Dragon Lords that I'd feel comfortable throwing into like 80, 90 poison shots. So this only has 50, or well, I guess when you're volley firing, it's less than that. So
Large targets,
yeah,
they all get to shoot it.
oh, they all get to shoot. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think Chaos probably take it also.
All right. NA East 3. We've got the second of the Wood Elf lists. And again, it's a dragon. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the stag's better, but I'll have to just keep preaching that outside of S-Spot and, I don't know, win a tournament with it or something. We've got a level 4 caster with the Ruby Ruin, the Oaken Stave, Resplendent Illuminescence. Fairly standard stuff. And then this, like the rest of the list, is super standard with the exception of the Wild Riders and the Great Eagle. So your core is Scouts, Glade Guard, Glade Riders. That's what you'd expect. You got 2 units of Sisters of the Thorn, and then 2 units of Wild Riders and a Great Eagle. You like Wild Riders. You should tell us why they're a good inclusion in this list.
I like them. I don't know what argument I can put forward to make them good, but
Sure.
they are fun. And when they hit something, that thing tends to die, which is always a nice, satisfying thing to do as Wood Elves. They're one of the few things I think in Wood Elves that can hit stuff and that stuff dies. Apart from obviously like the Glade Lord on the dragon. So they have like a really good solid output, but they are made of paper. So if you get countercharged, that can be really rough if you don't kill your main target. If you just get shot to death, there's really not much you can do. And they're also like a lot less flexible than the Sisters of the Thorn and more expensive. So they can't just rock around on the flanks and be a pest by casting loads of spells. They really have to get in there, and I feel like their value comes from that single charge that they'll probably get over the course of the game. So they're definitely harder to make work, and they don't play as well into a lot of archetypes, especially this teleporting poison brick. That would not be something I'd want to put Wild Riders into a matchup of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're cool. I mean, they're ethereal little dudes on stags. Not ethereal as in game terms, ethereal as in lore-wise. I believe they're spirits on stags. I might be wrong. But yeah, they're just cool. They're really nice models. So we're always a fan to see Wild Riders. I put them in all my lists.
Yeah, and really nice models are what we care about for the Square-based online tournament too.
Yeah, to be fair. Totally slipped past me.
And Morkel is playing into Tremendous, who has a tremendous mortuary cult list. Stop me if you've heard this before. There's a level 4 illusion caster on a dragon with Serpent Staff, Lore Familiar, and Talisman of Protection. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day. However,
it must repeat.
the second level 4 is Necromancy, Warding Splint, Scarab Brooch, so the terrors below Tomb Scorpions can come in within 18 instead of within 12. Ruby Ring of Ruin, just a good item to have. The Mortuary Priest is also Elementalism with Amulet of the Serpent for the poison shooting to go in the poison shooting block. Wait, there isn't one.
They have 13.
Huh. It's the smallest poison shooting block I've ever seen. That escaped me the first time I looked at this list. All right, cool. A couple of Necroserpents, some Skeleton Archers, some Skeleton Horse Archers, 8 Ushabti. Ushabti, real good, just generally solid. A couple of units of individual Tomb Scorpions, Ambushes, Terrors Below. You know the drill. They're pretty okay, and by okay, I mean great. A Necrosphinx, you know how that is. And a Necrolith Colossus? What?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a bow because they took that option away, but he does have 2 giant Kopeshes that I think you need to keep rolling, and he keeps hitting. So yeah,
With
it could one-shot a Chaos Lord.
His weapon skill 3, yeah.
Maybe I should do some maths on that and get us to figure out the chances of it actually doing anything.
Real bad. Because you're only hitting on 5s, but it's Nurgle, so any 6s you have to re-roll. So it's just not...
Oh god, yeah, that's not great chances. This is a bad matchup for that Necrolith Colossus. He's going to have a rough time.
Although he's going into the Forest Dragon, who he's going to be hitting on... Oh, he can't be challenged, at least. So he's still only hitting on 5s. And it's not a Nurgle Dragon, so yeah, he's not re-rolling that. Yeah, I don't like the Colossus's chances here. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think there's a reason that this is the only list that we've seen running one.
Yeah, I think in this one I've got to back the Wood Elves. This is the Wood Elf list that makes it to the next stage because, I think the Dragon's going to do some good work, and we'll see how that goes. How about you?
I think I'll probably have to agree with you on the Wood Elves. Wood Elves really don't like being shot,
Mm.
especially without being able to apply their mass modifiers from cover. This doesn't have a big brick of skeleton archers, which are obviously very good versus the wood elves and do quite well into the dragon as well. They do have the horse archers, which I think are fantastic. They're sort of like one of my go-tos when I'm building a more cult list. I like to start with 2 units of horse archers. But yeah, I don't think, looking at this list, like, how do you kill that dragon? Do you get lucky with a Necrosphinx 6 or a Tomb Scorpion? But how do you get that there? I don't know. I think I'm going to have to agree with you.
Yeah, debuff it with this serpent staff. Oh no, the serpent staff doesn't even debuff; it's the other one. Yeah, no, I'm feeling wood elves here. Moving into the other coast of the NA region, we've got West, and this is Corbag's list. It's Mortuary Cult. Now, this player has got a level 4 on Dragon, Illusion, Serpent Staff, Lore Familiar, Talisman of Protection.
Did all
Just
of the
get me
more
out.
cult players just agree
No.
at the start of this to be like, hey guys, should we just all take level 4s on dragons?
No, there was. I'm sure there was one that didn't do that, but I don't think anyone's got the triple caster, which is what I think. So here's, let's just argue with people who can't argue back. The correct way to write a mortuary cult list is 1 elementalism caster with the lore familiar and 2 level 4s with necromancy, and then 1 level 1 or 2 with illusion. That's the objectively correct way to do it, and you can't argue with me. That's
I think the best way to do it is spamming level 1s and 2s, because you get the +1 to reanimations anyway, and then
yeah,
you
but
can
then
get
they don't do
still
anything else.
cast on a +5. So
But what are they casting? That's the problem.
yeah, we worry about that later. That's fine.
No, we worry
We-
about that in list building. Anyway, so this list does have the 45 skeleton archers that the poison amulet of the serpent goes into, as you'd expect. Good stuff there. But it's only double level 2s, so the chance of getting your travel mystical pathways and plague of rust is not the highest. It's not impossible, but it's not great. The 2 requisite tomb scorpions, the 2 necrosphinxes that we've seen a lot of people bring, and a casket of souls. Just the 1 casket. I feel like if you're running, yeah, this is probably fine. You probably don't want a second one if you're running no necromancy casters. But yeah, I don't know if I remember to mention it. 7-ish up to you as well. Good stuff there. Low number of tomb swarms to suck wounds from. That makes me uncomfortable, but I guess it's what you're used to, what you can limit push. And playing the Mortuary Cult is the list you were excited about, Troll Horde. I'd like you to give us a run through on this one, please.
I'm so hyped for this list. I think after this we should just end the show because it doesn't get any better than this. So someone's taken Troll Horde, although they have no Troll Hags, which makes me sad. So we've got Ogdra's Swamp Digger. He's the character that came in the Arcane Journal. Comes with a lore familiar. He can pick from Elementalism or Troll Magic, and he's a level
And
3.
he
Did I
can
say
pick from
all? I
elementalism
did mean and. I did
and
mean
troll
and.
magic.
I didn't know it was and.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you've got the Goblin Oddnob, level 4, Troll Magic, Idle Orc, and the Thinking Orcsat. Then the Goblin War Boss on, this is the one on the Chariot? Yeah, on the Chariot with the Army of Meteoric Iron, Troll High Trousers, Potion of Foolhardiness, Talisman of Protection. Then the Orc War Boss on Wyvern, just with a Great Weapon and the Troll High Trousers. Then we get a big Goblin Mob's Brick. With the Spider Banner to give them all poisoned, 2 units of River Trolls, and 2 lovely giants.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting list. I like it. The elementalism caster, the troll, no elementalism caster. The Ogdras is picking travel mystical pathways. Probably going to be picking up Plague of Rust most games. Maybe going for the regen spell or big smarts, depending on how you want to play it. The level 4 with troll magic just rolling. Plenty of good spells in there, but also can take the goblin Itchy Nuisance for minus D3 to toughness. That's just really strong, especially when you got loads of shooting. The War Boss is a little bit weird to me, looking at it, because the Armor of Meteoric Iron can never be improved, the armor save, but then there's Troll Hide Trousers as well. So I guess just paying 40 points for regen, and that's the whole point of it, but I don't know. That seems a little odd to me. I'd maybe just take a different armor if you're going to spend, points on it. Other than that, War Boss on a Wyvern, just good, cheap, solid, under 300 points, really nice. And then 2 giants is the thing that I scratch my head at. I think realistically, both of them are going to be getting is it called Ravenous Recourse? The regen save, basically the troll magic spell that gives you regen, and they'll get a
Yeah,
5 up rerollable regen, which is fine.
it's good. It makes them durable, but I don't think giants really. It doesn't really matter about their durability because they just don't have a huge amount of output. They've got a really fun table,
Yeah.
but they just often don't do anything close to what you'd like them to do. A little sad to not see troll hags here. I think swapping out the giants for troll hags would have been nice. Maybe I think troll hags are 235 or
235, yeah. I would
235.
have to
So
rework the characters, but that's fine, I think, honestly.
yeah, I don't massively know the purpose of the Goblin War Boss, so I think you could potentially look to put in the hag there, maybe swap out a giant, buff up the amount of trolls you're taking, because for a troll list, it's not taking enough trolls. But I do like the river trolls over the stone trolls. I think mathematically that extra wound matters more than that extra save.
Mm,
So
yeah, it's
yeah,
the
I like it. I love seeing trolls.
Yeah, just on the stone troll point, I think the thing that's most appealing about them is the magic resist. But the big danger of flaming attacks that we're seeing isn't fireball so much; it's more pillar of flame. So when I played with stone trolls, I was pretty underwhelmed. I think I'm a river troll convert for sure.
Yeah, and I prefer the river troll models. Not that that matters being an online tournament, but this is why I like trolls.
Caught yourself there. So what are we thinking? Mortuary cult or troll horde?
Well, considering trolls are going to win the whole thing, so I think I'm
You
going
got
to
to
have
go
to
with
go with
trolls.
trolls. Yeah.
I think. Hmm. I think I've got to give it to the mortuary cult here. Like, there's so many large targets for the poison shooting to go after. Yeah. This feels very mortuary cult for me. I'm backing the boys in bone, we'll say. Finally, we've got Oceania, and this is our two highest scoring players. So, obviously a lot of violence going on in the Oceania region. First of all, T Commander. This is a very fun Tomb King list. Vampire count list, the other undead, the other bone meat. So we've got the standard necromancer. You've got a mortis engine. I was going to call it a mortuary cult. It's got the crown of the dam. A talisman of protection for the ward save, skull staff for the better dispel range, the spell familiar for a fifth spell, necromancy, casting at level 5 because it's on a mortis engine. Just great stuff there. There's a white lord BSB great weapon. Just that basically unlocks the Graveguard in core, which is nice. And then we've got the spicy choice, which I do enjoy, and that is the Vampire on Abyssal Terror, which is a level 3 caster with Lore Familiar, with Spectral Doppelganger, with a great weapon, and a 4 ward save from the Crown of the Damned. There are so many failure points here. This can go so wrong. There's stupidity. There's not casting your illusions, your Spectral Doppelganger. There is dying because you are riding a model that has a 4-up save. Yes, there is a 4-up ward, but sometimes that's just not going to cut it. I love it. I'm a little concerned about its longevity in a pod of lots of poison shooting. 4-up does not enjoy being poisoned to death, and a lot of the lists that we've seen have it. And, there is maybe a little bit of poison shooting coming its way in the next list. I think, spoilers, there is some damage coming. Other than that, Crypt Ghouls in core. Crypt Ghouls are great. Just skirmishing poison goodness. They're pretty tough. A couple of units of Die Walls for cheap chaff. A unit of Graveguard with heavy armor and shield. Interesting. Not the great weapons. A couple of units of Fellback for more chaff. And then a big unit of Blood Knights as well. So this is... It's pretty okay. It's a points denial list in a way because the Blood Knights and the characters are hard to kill into a lot of armies. They hit super hard. Supernatural Horror gives the unit terror. Yeah. Any thoughts on this one?
I feel like this was a list that was designed more to deal with big, scary combat lords than it
Yeah.
was to deal with poison shooting. The vampire count in Blood Knights, you can just challenge out and just not get hit by the big, scary combat lord. So that's one of the ways I think they plan on dealing with that. And I mean, Blood Knights, obviously, they hit really hard, and the vampire count, although he's not the blender of editions past, he's still pretty good, still has good output. So I think if you can get him into those right targets, but travel mystical pathways will make that a nightmare. So I
Yeah.
think it's really cool. I love the thematics of the list. Not that that matters in an online tournament, but have to include my thoughts somehow.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's a really cool list. I'm glad to see a vampire council list that isn't just yelling at people. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, no, it is cool. So, what is it playing into? Well, you might recognize this name. He won the last finals, and he's written a list that is pretty okay, we'll say. It has a lot of the internet very upset because it's infantry, but not as you know it, Jim. It's a whole lot of poison shooting, and it is the royal host list of your nightmares. This is the sort of, I guess, given that there were three royal host players, and this is the only one that's made it to the top cut, despite Shadow Sun also being the other 3-0 player that didn't get promoted. We're just going to say that this is the objectively correct one because it's the one that got promoted up. Don't think about it too hard, just go with it. This is 2 level 2 casters, Mortuary Priests. One is an Elementalism, one is an Illusion caster. The Elementalism has Lore Familiar to pick up Travel Mystical Pathways and Plague of Rust, or the Ward Save, depending on the matchup. Probably going to be more the ward save. There's a power scroll to get that one important spell off, because otherwise you're just casting it +2. TMP is cast on a 10, so you need to get it off the turn you need it. Illusion, just rolling for spells. You're taking that level 1, the glittering robes a lot of the time, or you can take Jaff's Cursed Blades and get the reroll ones to hit, again depending on the matchup. There's Enkil's Canopy, which is do a leadership test. If you pass the leadership test, all remains in play spells disappear, so that beats Pillars of Fire very handily. If you're playing against a Scream list or a Casket's debuff list, that's quite nice as well. Then there's the Real Spice, which is the triple character on Casket. There's a Tomb King. The important thing here is that the Tomb King is on Chariot, so he's got loads of wounds. He's a level 1 caster through Necromancy, which means he can also be the General and the Hierophant, so it's really hard for the army to crumble. Has an Ogre Blade, so hits pretty hard. Then, next to him, one on each side, there are 2 Royal Heralds, both on Chariots. Again, 35 points for +3 wounds is not an okay rate to be paying for wounds. One of them has the Spell Interact to give the unit Magic Resist 2, just nice to have, especially when you're not casting Dispelling anywhere near as well. Also a Warding Splint for a 5-up ward, which means that you've got, I believe, a 5-up armor save, a 5-up ward, and a 5-up regen. The other Royal Herald is the BSB with the Icon of the Sacred Eye, which gives +1 weapon skill to the unit, which is quite a nice defensive buff, so you're less likely to get hit on 2s mostly. Also on a Chariot, +3 wounds, has the Armor of Meteoric Iron, Potion of Toughness, and a Talisman of Protection. So you can juice this bugger to be really tanky. It's got a triple 5-up save, none of which can be reduced, unless, of course, you've got rules that ignore armor saves or wards or whatever. Don't worry about that. And the reason that that's so good is that the Tomb King has a rule which says you can pass hits from this model onto the Royal Heralds. So this is before the wound step and before the saves. The Tomb King can do this in a challenge, so you can declare a challenge into their lord. You can hit them with the Ogre Blade. They hit you. Too bad, so sad. I'm going to pass it off to a model with a triple 5-up save. Mathematically, I think that's like less than a third of those wounds go through. It's like 20-something%, which is not ideal. So that's a really beefy character frontline to deal with. The unit that it joins is a huge unit. It's something like 110 models. There's about 95 archers in there as well. Because the Royal Host, they can always volley fire. You can potentially move and or teleport and then volley fire. They've got a Banner of the Desert Winds, so they get reserve move built in, so they're quite mobile. They get to, I think it's reform during the move from the banner, so you get two moves in there, which is just not okay. Amulet of the Serpent to give them poison, that goes on the champion, so even if you kill the champion, they can then, when it's rezzed, the res always heals the champion first, so that's good stuff. Then there's triple Skeleton Scorpions and a couple of units of Skeleton Skirmishers, which are the sort of side chaff to play the game a little better than just having everything in one unit. How do you feel about this list?
Yes, this is one of the lists of all time.
Truly,
I think it feels like the monkey paw effect of, hey, we wanted infantry to work, so here we go. Now they're teleporting everywhere. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much more for me to add that you haven't already said.
I've thought about this list a lot.
Yes, I've been following. It's just you have to kill the brick. As you say, there's no draw, so you can't play for a draw into this anyway. So you're going to have to try and take out that brick somehow, and they have every single possible buff and debuff that they could possibly think to put into that brick. So it's it's quite simplistic in I guess in the way it play, not the way it plays. I'm describing this poorly. It's not a simplistic list, but you either kill it or you don't, right? There's a 50-50 chance.
Sure.
So
Yeah, you win or you don't.
yeah, there we go. That's my take. Cool.
Yeah.
Glad I'm here.
I think you can beat it if you can tailor lists. So this is the only event where people are going in blind against it. If you know that you have to deal with it, you can write a list that can go in and potentially kill the characters. Once the characters are gone, the unit kind of crumbles. But also, like, even if you don't kill the unit, it doesn't matter so much. If you manage to just kill the characters, you can potentially win that way. But yeah, it's a very binary list. You either deal with the big Death Star or you don't. And as we're saying, this is like sudden death. If you win by a point, you win by a point. This list, I think actually that might hurt this list, because some lists might be able to play cagily into it and try and just pick up the Tomb Scorpions with like long range spell casting. But there's a Canopy, so that can turn off the Pillar of Fire that a Wood Elf player would try and beat it with. However, this is a Vampire Counts list, which is pretty short range. How are we feeling about this matchup?
I feel the Vampire Counts have a decent shot if they fail that TMP on that crucial turn, but with
Sure.
the Power Scrolls being involved, I think that's somewhat slim. So I think edge probably to the Royal Host. But if you can get those Blood Knights in, they will tear apart that unit pretty quickly. I think they have a huge amount of output. So, and they do have the potential to pick off, I guess, the sort of side pieces. But I do feel that the meta isn't very well equipped to handle this sort of list at the moment. So I don't think people were planning this going into the event. But I definitely don't think it's the last time we see stuff like this. So
I agree. I go back and forth on who's going to win this game. I think if there's a way for T Commander to get the Vampire Count into the flank and not get shot, which is a little magical Christmas land, then I think T Commander can take it. But I think on average, I'm expecting to see probably the game taken by the Royal Host. And to make a bold prediction, the event probably taken by the Royal Host. Just going to say it now.
Okay. I mean, I don't see how they're going to be Troll Horde, but that is what it is. But, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we've made some predictions. We've talked about the lists. You've predicted Troll Horde for the final list winner. Are there any other thoughts that you have before we wrap this one up?
I just think it's really nice to be able to sort of see these events where you're not restricted by sort of the models you own or the models that are available. It really shows, I think, that the old world is in a really healthy state at the moment. Obviously, there's some outliers. Tomb Kings are looking probably way too strong. There's sort of like a top 5 armies, but I think that's a healthy space. Nothing feels horribly oppressive at the moment. And seeing all of these unique lists, I mean, Tomb Kings obviously have so many different varieties of lists they can play. Even Chaos are running lots of different things. So yeah, it's cool. It brings me a little smile to see the game that we love in a decent spot.
Thank you for watching, and thank you to the support that I receive from my channel members. Huge thanks to the Grail Knight tier supporters, and also thanks to the Longbeards and the Fnatic tier supporters as well. If you want to support the channel, you too can become a member. The link is down below the video. But if you don't want to give me any money, which is entirely fair enough, I would appreciate the thumbs up, the comments, all of those good things that help me get found in the YouTube algorithm. They really help, and they've been helping grow the channel, and I appreciate the support that I've been given. If you want to see more stuff and just engage in the community we've been building, there is a closer order Discord down below. It's not a VIP Discord, anyone can join, but there are some VIP sections for the YouTube members at Longbeard tier and above. Currently, I'm trying to get 2 videos out a week on a Thursday and a Sunday, and also doing 2 live streams. That's a Tuesday and a Friday. I do stick to this as much as possible. So, check me out. I'll see you around.